He established the National Bank, defended the Constitution in the Federalist Papers, you know, in his free time between establishing the U.S. Mint, quashing rebellions, and fighting in the Revolutionary War. His stands on all of these issues benefited the country and the world for centuries to come. Alexander Hamilton was born on January 11th, 1757, in Charleston, capital of the Nevis Islands. Both of his parents had left him by the time he was 11. In the 1770s, Hamilton's passage to America was paid for by three wealthy merchants who were impressed by the level of grammar and letters that Alexander Hamilton had been sending to America. In 1773, Hamilton enrolled in King's College. He performed exceptionally, but when he got a letter from George Washington inviting him to become his personal assistant in the Revolutionary War, he could not refuse. He spent the next few years writing Washington's letters and giving him personal battlefield advice. In 1780, he married his wife, Eliza Schuyler. As the war was nearing its end, Hamilton saw his chances for battlefield glory were running short. He asked Washington for a command. Washington thought he was too important to go out in battle, but eventually he relented. Hamilton led a successful charge at the Battle of Yorktown. In July 1782, Alexander Hamilton was appointed to the Congress of Confederation to write the Articles of Confederation, the predecessor to the Constitution. Hamilton was unsatisfied with the Articles, saying, "The Confederation itself is defective and requires to be altered. It is neither fit for war nor peace." Despite Hamilton's efforts, the Articles of Confederation were still passed. Furious, he resigned from politics and spent the next 5 years as a lawyer. 1787. Most of Congress has realized that the Articles of Confederation simply do not work. A new form of government has been proposed in the Constitution. Hamilton supported the Constitution, but sadly it did not get enough votes in Congress to pass. In response to this, Hamilton and the Federalist Party went on a campaign to promote the Constitution to Congress and the masses. While many things were done in this stand for the Constitution, arguably the most important was the writing of the Federalist Papers, a series of 85 essays stressing the importance of the Constitution, a stronger executive, a powerful national government, and a fair legal system. These essays were written under a pseudonym by John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. Of the 85 essays, Alexander Hamilton wrote 51. Thanks to the Federalist Papers and other efforts, the Constitution was passed.
I think it would not have passed without Hamilton's involvement. I mean, he was really, central to organizing what was basically a political campaign. The founders wrote the Constitution in the summer of 1787, and right after they finished up in Philadelphia, they had to go out and start this big publicity campaign to advocate for it. And Hamilton was really the genius behind that campaign and the most prolific of the writers.
September 11th, 1789. George Washington, the first President of the United States, appoints Alexander Hamilton to be his Secretary of Treasury. Hamilton's first years in office were mainly spent trying to keep the finances of the country together. However, in the 1790s, Hamilton presented Congress with his idea of a national bank. Hamilton had been thinking about a national bank since 1779. Hamilton's banking idea was pretty similar to the banking system we have today. People would be able to deposit their money in a bank would be able to give out loans. The federal government would control the interest rate based on whether they wanted people spending or saving. Hamilton also thought up the concept of paper money because, they were running out of gold and silver back then. Hamilton also thought up the idea that the government could take loans from the banks themselves in times of extreme emergency. This proved helpful during the Jefferson administration as well as World War II.
The government's ability to borrow money for that military buildup was really important, and it wouldn't have been able to happen without the groundwork that Hamilton laid with his financial plan.
Arguably, the most important part of Hamilton's banking plan was the fact that it assumed all state debts into one giant national debt so that states wouldn't succeed from the Union, because that would leave them with a lump sum debt in their own nation.
What Hamilton did was basically say, well, we're just going to assume the debts, and then you'll have to stick together, right? Because you'll all have a shared purse, basically.
Naturally, though, as soon as Hamilton introduced his bank idea, there was immediate opposition, especially from Thomas Jefferson and the Democratic-Republican Party. They felt that it was giving too much power to the national government and capitalist society. This feud over the national bank is where the phrase Jefferson democracy versus Hamilton oligarchy came from, which is totally incorrect. Hamilton wanted a bank, Jefferson didn't. After seeing the distrust of his bank idea, Hamilton sent a 216-page letter to Congress describing the pros and cons of a bank and why they should vote for it. As he said in one of his paragraphs, trade and industry, wherever they have been tried, have been indebted to them for important aid. On February 28, 1791, the banking bill passed 39 to 20 votes. The election of 1800. The candidates are John Adams and Charles Pinckney on the Federalist side, and Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr on the Democratic-Republican side. Hamilton, of course, supported the Federalist ticket, but deemed John Adams emotionally unstable to be in office. Hence, he put his support behind Charles Pinckney, saying that electors should cast their votes for him instead of Adams. However, any plan of his failed. Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr, both on the Democratic-Republican ticket, tied with 73 electoral votes each. This meant the House of Representatives had to vote on who should become president, Jefferson or Burr, seeing as they had tied on electoral votes. However, after a series of 36 ties in the House of Representatives, Federalists turned to Hamilton and asked him who he supported. After some consideration, Hamilton threw his support behind Thomas Jefferson. Though he disagreed with Jefferson on many issues, he thought him the lesser of two evils, calling him by far not as dangerous a man, and Burr a mischievous enemy.
Jefferson has beliefs. Burr has none.
After the election, Hamilton disparaged Burr many times in public, and helped his opponents win elections against him. Eventually, Burr could not take it any longer. He challenged Hamilton to a duel in Weehawken, New Jersey. Hamilton, being a man of pride, accepted. The duel commenced on July 11th, 1804. We aren't exactly sure what happened. We know that Hamilton's bullet flew into the branches of a tree above Burr. We know that Burr's bullet flew into Hamilton's left rib cage, proving to be a fatal wound. Hamilton died the following afternoon. We don't know the intentions of the two men either. The evidence suggests that Burr was planning to shoot Hamilton, but we aren't sure where Hamilton was intending to shoot. However, on the night before the duel, Hamilton's second asked him if he wanted to put Hamilton's gun on a hair trigger setting, which would make it easier to shoot Burr. Hamilton said no. After his death, Hamilton was remembered temporarily. He was given a eulogy, he was mourned by the public, but in time, he was forgotten. The sole protector of his legacy was his wife, Eliza Schuyler. She lived to be 50 years older than he did, and spent most of her time devoted to spreading information about her husband's deeds. Without Eliza, you might not be seeing this documentary today. She told everyone how his national bank stopped the states from splitting apart, how it helped the government in times of emergency. She told everyone how him writing the Federalist Papers provided us with the Constitution, and allowed the government to tax states. She told everyone how we should remember Hamilton as a hero, and we should honor her wishes.